Marina, thank you for taking the time to speak with me today. Before we dive into your work with Al-Hara Theatre, I'd love for our viewers to get to know you a little better. Could you tell us about your background and how you got involved in theatre?
Okay. Well, first, my name is Marina Barham, and I'm one of the co-founders of Al-Hara Theatre and the general director of Al-Hara. And I got involved in theatre by coincidence. In 1995. I was asked to translate for a workshop in playwriting with the Royal Court Theatre in London, who came to Palestine to try to develop the writing for theatre. And after that, an actress, also from Beit Jala, her name is Raida Ghazali, she asked me to start a theatre. And I said, I don't know anything about theatre because I didn't come from theatre background. I was working at UNRWA, the United Nations and Relief Works Agency, as an assistant public information officer. So this is when we started together to establish a theatre. And this is when I started to get to learn everything about theatre. So this is how I got involved in theatre, and I've been in this for almost 30 years.
All right, very nice. So, Meramieh.
Yes.
You are here in Sweden.
Yes.
If you is gonna tell us powerful and deeply personal stories.
Yes.
Could you walk us through how this play came to life?
Sure. Well, the play was based on a research done by Ar-Ruwat Center. It's a research center based in Ramallah and in Amman, Jordan. The person in charge of this research is Dr. Fayha Abdelhadi, and she started collecting testimonies from Palestinians who were forced to leave in 1948. And she collected 115 interviews with Palestinians in Chile, in the United States, in Nazareth, in Jordan, in Lebanon, in many, many countries. Then she took 6 stories from different countries and put them in a book called The Living Memory. So we had a workshop with this lady, Dr. Fayha Abdelhadi, and we discussed the possibility to take these 6 stories and make them into a docudrama, which is this play that Meramieh. Now, Meramieh means in Swedish salvia,
Okay.
or sage in English. And the director and the dramaturge, Mirna Sakhle, from our group, took the testimonies that were in the book, exactly like they were said by the speakers, and made this play as a docudrama to tell the stories of Palestinians who were displaced and forced to leave in 1948. And that's why we are here with this play.
All right. I imagine audiences react differently depending on where the play is performed.
Yes.
What kind of reactions have you received so far, both in Palestine and internationally?
Yes. Well, in Palestine, because Palestinians, let's say the oldest generation, know about the Nakba in 1948. But a lot of the young generation don't know these stories. So it was very powerful, and it impacted a lot of young people to know the history of their great-grandfathers and grandparents. And it told them how difficult it was in 1948 in the Nakba. And then internationally, it depended in where. So we had already a tour in Denmark. We did 12 performances this year. And we did, in 2022, 8 performances in Denmark. And it was different. In 2022, the Danish audience who saw the play, we had also more Palestinian or Arab audience who saw it in 2022. And they were not as supportive as today. But they were very, very influenced and emotional about the play. and the stories that we told. This year, when we performed it in Denmark, the majority of the audience were Danish. But they were so affected by the stories of the people in the play, and also by the fact that what happened in 1948 and what happened in 1967 is still happening today, whether it is in Gaza or in the West Bank.
So it is still ongoing.
It's still ongoing, it is still hard, it is still very important for the Western audiences to ask their members of parliament, their governments, to stop what is happening in Palestine.
The tour in Sweden.
Yes.
And now you are bringing it here.
Yes.
What does it mean to share these stories with the Swedish audience?
We have, as a theater, we have a long history with Sweden. Why? Because from 1998, we had co-productions with Swedish theaters like Backa Theater, Rikstheater, Eugen Blinks Theater, Unga Klara Theater. So for us to come to Sweden today and this period after seeing the changes that is happening in the government in Sweden was very, very important. And seeing the audiences in Malmö, in Helsingborg, yesterday in Gothenburg, we felt that really what we told in this play was so important for the audiences to hear, to understand that there is an oral history and the real history for the Palestinian issue. Not everything started in October 2023.
Exactly.
We had this history before 1948. And what happened with Gaza, Gaza has been under siege, complete siege, for 18 years. So to be closed in a jail for 18 years, this should have happened. And they really understood the stories that we told, and they were very supportive, very emotional, and they said, we really appreciate that we had to see this, and in the form of arts, because also theater is the language of the West. When you do it as a piece of art, it's completely different than when you tell it.
So it's easier, much easier to reach out.
Yes.
All right.
Definitely.
If there is one message you'd like the audience in Sweden to take with them after watching the performance, what would it be?
Okay. And this is something I say it after the performance to the audience. Being Swedish or Danish or Palestinian or Arabs in Sweden, you have a responsibility. The responsibility is not only towards the environment and the green and keeping the ozone protected. It's a responsibility towards human beings, not only Palestinian. Like they treated Ukrainians, they should treat Yemenis, Palestinians, Sudanese, anybody. Human rights, which Sweden used to come to teach us about the respect for human rights and freedom of expression, we demand that the Swedish audience ask for their rights, ask for their freedom of expression, to talk about the injustices that is happening in Palestine. I also ask them to take action, not necessarily to go and protest in the street, but to write to their MPs, to write to their government, to ask for the freedom of Palestine, to ask for justice, and for theaters to invite Palestinian performances, organizations in Sweden to also adopt theaters and try to support arts and theater in Palestine, because it is not entertainment, it is extremely important for Palestinians to continue theater.
It's like very important resistance act.
Of course.
All right. Being a Palestinian theater company must come with its own set of challenges. What are some of the biggest obstacles you face?
Well, the biggest obstacle is being under occupation, under military occupation of the Israelis. The second is the oppression of the Israeli military, the shrinking of the space for us in Palestine, the restrictions on movement from one place to the other, the restriction on being able to travel easily, the administrative detention that they force on a lot of people without any evidence. They can put you in jail for 6 months, they renew it another, like our colleague from the Freedom Theater, from El Funun Dance Group, from the Circus School. They have been put in jail without evidence against them, and this is illegal, without trial, without visitation. Also, the most important obstacle that we face today is the political conditional funding, which Sweden was one of the first countries to implement on their support to Palestinian civil society. We used to get funding from the Swedish International Development Agency for culture and for arts for many years. Then suddenly in 2019, the European Union added a political condition on their funding to Palestinian organizations, which considers 7 Palestinian political parties as terrorists. And we as Palestinian organizations said we will not do vetting on our people, we will not be policing our people, we will not accept incriminating our people, and that's why we stopped accepting funding for them, from them. We tried with Sweden to negotiate with SIDA to try and convince them that according to international law we have the right to have political parties, but they refused to listen, so we said we will not accept that funding. So now we are facing a very big problem with continuing our work because we stopped having funding not only from the European countries that are putting this condition, but also from the governments that are sending weapons to kill our people in Gaza, in Jenin, in different countries. We used to work with the British Council, with the Goethe Institute, with the French Institute. We stopped because we cannot accept money where they send weapons to kill us and at the same time give us money to produce theater. So now we're facing a very big financial problem to have sustainability, and that's why we ask individuals to become friends of Al Hara Theatre in Sweden, in Denmark, in the UK, and to support our work with children, with young people, with women, with people with disability, because it's very important.
Very nice. Despite these challenges, Al Hara Theatre continues to grow.
Yes.
What are your hopes and plans for the future?
Our first hope is freedom, justice, to have respect for our human rights, to have an end for the fear of going to work, fear of producing theater, fear of going to school for our children and doctors, fear for our families. We need to end this fear. And as a theater, we are hoping that we can have sustainability to continue our work in the future, to have more co-production with international theaters, to have more possibilities for visas to be able to travel, to be invited by other countries, and to have our own stage. We don't have our own stage in Palestine. We have a small garage that we do rehearsals in. So we dream to have a stage, a small one, that we can have our performances in.
Let's hope it will become
Inshallah.
reality.
Inshallah.
All right. Are there any upcoming projects or collaborations that you're particularly excited about?
Yes, very.
Tell us.
Well, we have been dreaming about producing a new play called Deadlift أو حمالون في العربي. And we will manage to produce it in July this year, July and August and September. And this play is based on the inspiration of a painting that Sliman Mansour, a famous painter in Palestine, he painted a picture many years ago in the 80s. It's a picture of an old man carrying Jerusalem on his back. It's called Jamal al-Mahamel. And this painting is almost in every house in Palestine. This painting was sent to London to Gaddafi for an exhibition, and it disappeared. So he painted another picture, the same, and sent it to Dubai, and it also disappeared. So we got the inspiration that the idea of the loss of the painting is like the loss of Jerusalem, the loss of Palestine, and how the Palestinians everywhere in the world always have to carry the burden of Palestine on their backs. No matter how long they stay outside, they still have this burden. So we wanted a Palestinian director called Bashar Murqos to direct this play, and it took us 3 years to get him to direct this play.
Right.
And we got some support from the Arab Fund for Culture, and also we made a co-production with a Dutch producer. We will have a light designer from Holland and also a musician from Holland. And we will do the rehearsals in Palestine, and then we will go to Holland to do rehearsals for 1 week, and then have a tour in Holland in 10 theaters in Holland. And we're hoping to bring this play hopefully next year to Sweden. And that's why we're talking to all the theaters and to ABF and Palestine Vision, maybe to bring it back. And we will have a new kind of vision where it is not text-based like this play. It's more physical. So
Don't
we're
spoil
hoping
it.
to bring it.
Don't spoil any
No,
details.
I'm not going to tell. No. Anyway, we still haven't worked on it yet, but
Yeah, but this that's great news,
yes,
actually.
thank you.
Very nice. So before we wrap up,
Yes.
is there anything you would like to say to those who will be watching Meramieh for the first time?
Well, I think I don't need to say anything except that sit and watch, and then we will talk after the show. And I want people to think about what they see and to take action after, because action is also very important. And I'm glad that we have somebody from the media who is covering this, because the media hasn't been covering a lot of things here in Sweden or in Denmark. So I'm glad that you are doing this with us today.
Of course.
Thank you.
It's our pleasure. How can people support Al-Hara Theatre and its mission?
Yeah, well, we have outside special cards called Shining Stars Friend of Al-Hara Theatre in Bethlehem. And we have a QR for a GoFundMe campaign that we are asking people to donate to. And also we're asking people to become friends of Al-Hara on a continuous basis. So in the future, we will send them about the different programs. So a program for children and youth, women, people with disability, and they can choose to support on monthly basis or yearly basis the activities that we do in Palestine with Al-Hara Theatre.
So Marina, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. We look forward to seeing Meramieh tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas.